Hello Mixtresses and Mixters, this is Mixtress Ray, you're watching Mixtress Video, and today I thought we'd do, this is kind of a Marigold Tarot appreciation post, but it's also a comparison between, so this is the, a comparison between the, I think this is the second edition Gilded Marigold Tarot, and this is the, I don't know what edition it is, but it's the one that's being sold as of May 2020. That's the black edged version. So I'm going to compare the two decks, and then I'm just going to kind of show off my other, like this is my soul deck, this deck. So I have bought, this here is, I'm not going to be able, you can look on her website. It's all Shop Amrit Brar. I'll put the link in the description notes below. So all of this stuff is available on her website. Obviously the tarot, and this is the guidebook here, which I'll show you here in a second. And this here is the altar cloth, and this is the velvet bag, and it's really quite nice. It's lined on the inside with satin, and it's just fucking gorgeous. I love everything that Amrit Brar does, and like I said, this is my soul deck, so this is mostly going to be a Marigold appreciation post, but I'm also going to give you, because I haven't seen one of these, I'm going to give you a comparison between the two boxes and the two decks. But first, let's go ahead and light our little candle here. Hope everyone's doing well, as can be, in perfect love and perfect trust. And I'm also going to spray this. I just got this stuff. It's pretty cool. Palo Santo clearing spray. And I'm going to, this is Mistress of Power from Possets. It's a perfume, but it's very, 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 very strong. So I'm going to just put a little bit on my palms, just for fun. So like I said, this is my soul deck. I just recently decided I prefer black edges to gold edges just in general, and that wasn't available when I first bought this deck. So I bought this version. This is the second edition, I believe, back in February of 2019. And it's gilded edges. So this is, well, let's just compare the boxes first. I'm trying to do this in some kind of semblance of organization. As you can see, the finish on the boxes is a little different. It's a little bit more of a yellow gold on this second edition that I bought last year. And it's a little bit more of a coppery gold on the current box. I'm assuming that this is probably the same box. You can get either the gilded version or the black edge version now. So I'm assuming that this is probably the box that they both come in. As you can see, she did rectify one of the issues with the second edition box, which was that it's too deep for the cards, whereas this one is perfect. It's exactly the right size for the cards. And again, that sort of like difference in the golds, but the box is completely the same. Other than that, it's just, except for the inside. Yeah, I'll show you. Disregard this. The reason why it's like jangling around, I keep like cell phone tools, like little baby screwdrivers and stuff in here, because it was just too big for the deck. But it's white on the inside of the old edition box, which is not available anymore. So I don't know why I'm comparing them necessarily, but just in case you are a person like me that has one of the like second editions from like a year and a half ago or so, and this is the box that you have, I'm just giving you a comparison as what the new edition box looks like. Just because I was curious ever since the black edged version became available, I started thinking, oh man, like maybe I should get it. Like, I'm not usually a person that has like extra copies of decks. I do have a couple of decks where I have like a different edition or something like that. But that's only for like my ride or die top 5 decks, or not even that. I have multiples of the RWS, mostly just because like different vintage versions, different colorations. I have multiple versions of the Wild Unknown, mostly just because I wanted a first edition after I got the third edition and realized that it was one of my very favorites. And then I have multiples of Modern Witch. But this is, I was just thinking, oh, this is like my favorite deck of all time. This is my soul deck, like, and I would prefer it to be edged in black. So let's just do it. So I'm going to give you guys a comparison. I don't know why I got to explain. So the new box is black on the inside, which is something that I've would prefer, even though I keep my deck in this bag. So now I guess I have to decide, like, which one am I going to keep in the bag? I might... Most likely I will start using the one that has the black edges just because I like the black edges better. And I'll keep it in the bag, and then I'll keep the my older edition in this box since it'll fit perfectly. But there you go. It's a nice matte box. This box does show fingerprints more than the last box. But just, you know, a minor thing. I think the spray actually, like, got on the box just now, too. Oh, well, that's fine. I'm not too precious. Okay, let me show you the guidebook just really quickly, and then we'll go through, like, a little comparison of the cards. So the guidebook is edged, and you get a PDF of the guidebook when you buy the deck, no matter what. Also, price difference. The gold edition is, oh crap, I don't know there is a price difference. I don't know the exact numbers off the top of my head, but the gold version is around $20 US more, I think, than the black edged version. But I believe that the cards are exactly the same. The differences in like the finish and stuff on the cards from this edition from over a year ago to now is probably just a slight difference in the manufacturing. I doubt that there's a difference in the cards besides the edging and the price, obviously. So the guidebook is just extra. Like if you want a nice printed version of the guidebook, I believe it's like $20 or something, which is more than I would normally pay for a book, especially when I already have it in a PDF and I actually like printed it out and like bound it and everything. But then when she came out with the guidebook, I just fucking had to, because I'm so in love with this deck, so in love with this artist, and it's really well done. And what I really like about the Marigold Tarot guidebook is the way that she describes the symbolism in the card. She describes why she chose roses for the Two of Cups. She explains why she chose pomegranate blossoms and seeds for the Ace of Cups. You know, I really wish more artists would go into detail on the symbolism that they chose for the imagery in tarot decks. And I really, really, really like that she does that. And she even goes into, I mean, she really gets deep, like I'll show you just sort of like the beginning and the end of the guidebook. So she goes into why she chose marigolds for the back of the cards and why marigolds are, I mean, it's the Marigold Tarot, why it's the predominant symbolism in the deck, why she chose Gota and Gold, and explains what the Gota borders are and what they mean to Punjabi culture. Then she explains why she chose skeletons for her deck instead of flesh and bone. And then in the very back, she goes into more symbolism, like why she chose, why death is the most important card in her opinion. And, you know, it's her deck, so why death is the most important card for her. She chose, she talks about why she chose to make the star, moon, and sun similar imagery, and just goes into the whole symbolism of it and everything. She talks about the rib cage as being a cage. And she talks a bit about like Sikh culture and stuff like that throughout this guidebook. She talks about why she chose the, in the rings / pentacles, she chose to depict hands. And that's the only place in the whole deck where you see non-skeletal figures. So she talks about that. She talks about the symbols of like halos and circles being a connection to divinity. She talks about the lovers and the devil. And the lovers and the devil, they're supposed to be like kind of two opposite sides of a coin, sort of like the moon and the sun. And I love this deck so fucking much. When she talks about some of the figures in the major arcana are not grounded. They're actually floating in space. And I didn't even necessarily notice that, like, or I didn't really think about it. So this just kind of talks about, you know, why that it was intentional when she chose figures to be floating in space. And then she's got, I love it so much. It really is, this is more like it says, a guide to the symbolism. It's more a guide to the symbolism of the Marigold Tarot than it is about like the cards itself. And she says that in the guidebook. She says, this is, you know, if you're looking for like a general guide to tarot and the symbolism of the image or the symbolism of tarot cards in general, then this probably isn't the deck or the guidebook for you. This is more just, you're going to need to get that too, is kind of what she says. I mean, she does actually like describe what a card means, but it's more about the symbolism. And I really like that. I mean, I don't even necessarily like, at this point, since I have plenty of tarot guidebooks, and I know a lot of you guys do too, like general tarot books, at this point, I don't need more like guidebooks that explain the meanings that come with specific decks that I buy. And I get why you would include that, because some people are really only going to buy one deck. So if you're only going to buy one deck, then it makes sense to have that kind of stuff in there. But I don't mind just having like, you know, little white books or keywords or whatever. And then if you want more, just talk about the symbolism. Okay, so here is just sort of a comparison. This is obviously, I've had this since February 2019, so it's very worn because it started out as one of those like really shiny mirror gold. I mean, you can tell it still is, but it's also very, very worn. But they're the exact same cardstock, exact same thickness and everything. Now I should probably zoom in if we're gonna do like a little flip through here. Okay, sorry, I had to like nerd out and make it pretty. So I don't know if I'm gonna flip through this entire deck, but I just wanted to show you kind of like, if you can tell, this is the one from that I've had for a year, the gilded version, and this is the black edge version from May 2020. It's really hard to tell, but I think she's slightly changed her approach to the finish on the cards. It's very slight, but this card is just slightly shinier from this gilded for 2nd edition. And the actual gold on the cards, it is very hard to tell. Sorry, I'm bumping the tripod. It is very hard to tell, but the gold is slightly warmer in the gilded version from a year ago. Very slight. Like, you would not, there's really no comparison. And I don't know if you can see, do you see how there's like, it's very, very slight, but there's like some kind of smudging of the gold ink that's sort of in the background and on the close. And that happens in a few of the cards throughout the deck. Again, not something you're really going to notice that much, but that is not present in any of the cards on the new deck. I'll show you another example. It's on the Lover's card as well. It might be a little easier to see that way. But like, this might be easier to tell, like, the differences in the gold. It's just slightly paler. And I think that's just because the ink is slightly more saturated. Like, the blacks are blacker in this gold version. But again, that even could be, it's possible that that is due to just like over the last year and 4 months that I've had this deck, you know, my oils have just gotten on the cards a little bit, and it's, you know, it's kind of worn in. I mean, maybe not. It's a very slight thing. But again, like in this card, sorry, I keep bumping the tripod. You can see just like little bits of gold smudging happening in the background. That was just a process of the ink messing up or something while they were applying it to the card. And that's not present in the new deck at all. But again, that was only on like 3 cards in this deck, and it was probably just a printing error. And it's not something that like distracts me or anything. It's not bad at all. But yeah, so I just had looked several times. I wanted to see a comparison. I hadn't seen one. So here's a comparison, I guess. There's not really much else to compare. The cardstock is the same. It feels slightly stiffer on this new deck, but again, that might just be because it's not thicker. It's the exact same thickness, these 2 decks. But again, that might just be because I have not actually, like, you know, used this deck and shuffled this deck. The card finish is slightly more matte on the newer ones. And there's just slightly less saturation, but it's probably not actually less saturation. It's probably just due to the fact that the finish is slightly more matte on the newer cards. So it just makes things look a little less saturated on the new deck. But I'm really excited to have, it feels so excessive to have 2 of the same deck, but I don't really feel bad about it because I was able to support an independent artist, and, you know, any chance I get, I will buy more of her things. Obviously, I have no problem, you know, like spending $25 on a guidebook I already had, but, you know, so since this is my soul deck, what I'm planning to do is I'm probably just going to store the gilded version. And if I lose a card or something from my primary use deck, which will be the black edged version, then I can kind of like see if I can sand down. I did try to edge this deck in black, so that's another thing I guess I can share with you guys. If you have the gilded version and like me, or just any deck, if you have a gilded deck that you would like to be edged in black, when it's foiled like this, it is pretty hard to do. Like with like a regular like Sharpie marker or something, most likely you'd have to trim the deck ever so slightly just to get the gilded finish off, and then edge it in black. And I know that's not going to be like, that's like a niche thing. Like most people aren't even going to want to do that. Like most people like gilded cards. But if you are like me and you've thought about that before, can I edge my gilded decks in black? Not unless you like have really fine sandpaper that you can sand off the gold before you edge it in black, or you could just like trim it. Like this deck could, I mean, if you're trimming ever so slightly each edge, then it would get the gilded edges off, and then you could edge it in black. So I thought about doing that. That would have been a very time-consuming process, but I mean, I would have done it for this deck, of course, because it's my soul deck. But yeah, so just from experience, I tried it and it really just didn't work. It just couldn't hold it because of the foiling. It just couldn't hold the black ink. So I ended up like taking some nail polish remover to take the black back off. So there you go. Just a little appreciation post. Amrit Brar, if you see this, first of all, I'm probably mispronouncing your name, so I am so sorry. I love your work so much. Like, you created this deck, and it is just unlike any other deck that I have. It is so truthful with me, and I communicate so well with it. No other deck, like other decks, you know, I might be asking questions, pulling cards, and I kind of feel like, I mean, I'm good enough at reading tarot at this point that I feel pretty confident with any deck, but with this deck, it's different. It's like we're having an actual conversation when I pull cards from this deck, and it's, I feel like for me, it's like the card version of the goddess Kali, and she's very possessive of me, and she is also very demanding about how often I can use her. She also insists that I keep her in a box, a nice, beautiful box with satin on the inside and everything. Like, she demands that I treat her with respect and like a fucking goddess. And I appreciate that, because it's like this deck has a personality. And I mean, I have other decks that I feel like I could attribute a personality to them if I wanted to, but this deck screams personality. This deck has one. I don't have to attach one to it. It just has one. And it's, I don't know, I don't really even know how to articulate it because it sounds so silly, but I'm so happy to have. Ooh, you know what I wanted to do? I haven't actually shuffled this deck yet because I just got it in the mail a couple of hours ago. So I wanted to shuffle it for the first time on camera with you guys. Oh, first of all, this deck also, let's move this guidebook out of the way. Shuffling around a tripod. Some of you know the struggle. It is just a fucking joy to shuffle. Like, oh, I love it so much. Because it's got the linen finish. And the cards are, I think they're 310 GSM. And I am in love with this deck. Oh, in the description, it said something about these cards being black core. So let's pull a card right now for us. Oh yeah, I'm loving holding this deck more too, because like, first, I don't know if you guys feel this way, but with gilded edges, like, they just feel harsh on my fingers. I really prefer, I mean, I know that, like, you know, everybody loves gilding, but anyway. Okay, let's pull a card. So it said on the website that it was black core, 3 of Swords, which means, I think that means you can't see the other side of the card when you shine it to a light. So I'm going to do like a comparison right now between the old version. You cannot see that I'm doing this. But they must have been black core since the beginning. Because, yeah, you can't see any... So, sorry, I just did that off camera. But you can't see any, like, light shining through. You know how with a lot of cards, you hold them up to a light and you can see the back of the card shining through. This is a black core card, so you can't see that. So that's pretty cool. I wonder if that means that whenever, like, the edges start chipping off, it won't be white. I don't know. I actually don't know anything about that. So let's not just speculate and sound stupid right now, because I don't know what I'm talking about. Anyway, thank you guys so much for watching this video and indulging in my love of the Marigold Tarot. It is just the best deck, and I love it a lot. And if you're at all interested in it, it is definitely worth it. It is high quality. Some people would not prefer the cardstock just because it's thinner, but it holds up really, really well. Like, obviously gilding is gonna fade, but and I've had a couple of like chips that show up on the card, but then you just color it in with Sharpie and it's fine. But yeah, it's great. That 3 of Swords, man. It's coming up today in both decks. Anyway, love you guys. Thank you so much for watching.